Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric from the Eric Street Photography blog. So I wanted to make a slew of fun videos for you. The first question, or the thing I want to actually talk about, is how to conquer your fears in life. So this is actually very interesting to me because I made my living the last 7 years focusing on street photography, and my most popular workshop was how to conquer your fears in street photography. Because honestly speaking, I think 90% of street photography is courage. Courage to take the shot, courage to take the risk of somebody might get angry at you, taking the risk of even approaching a stranger, asking for permission to make a portrait of them. And a lot of it is conquering fear. It's about conquering risk aversion. I think most people are risk averse, meaning that they don't want to take a small risk if there's a chance that it might go bad. But I think we should take the opposite approach and become more risk loving. Is that generally speaking in life, anything that's more risky is actually more interesting and enjoyable to us. And so first and foremost, what are we so afraid of in life? So let me just break down some thoughts. So first and foremost, the only certainty in life is that you're going to die. You know, there's a saying like death and taxes. Taxes, oh, you know, with the freaking system now, you could game that, right? Or, live in Dubai or something. But you're going to die. Facts. And at worst, or at best, you could live to be like 120 years old, preferably in excellent health. At worst, you could die today. I mean, it's so simple. You might be driving and then someone texts you when your Google Maps is open. You might check it real quick and boom, you're dead, right? So you honestly never know when you'll die. Or who knows, you might have like some sort of anaphylaxis from eating cashews, which actually happened to me, and that wasn't so pretty. But anyways, so first and foremost, I think the best way to conquer fear is to think about things in reverse. So think about the end, your death, and then working your way backwards. So if we know that you're going to die, technically anything you do in your life is exciting, and it's up to you. You could dictate and determine what you do. And also, this is also something that's interesting, is a lot of us believe in an afterlife. I personally don't. Certainly not a conscious afterlife. So for myself, of course you're free to have your own personal beliefs. I don't believe in an afterlife. I mean, like I do believe that like I will die and then my minerals go back to the earth, and then, out of my human compost machine, I could turn into like an almond tree or avocados, or hopefully one day be eaten by cows, and then someone will be able to eat Korean barbecue. I don't know. So anyways, that aside, once again, if you assume that, let's say your maximum lifespan is 120, but for certain there is no afterlife, how's that going to change how you live your life today? So I mean, some practical thoughts is, I personally try to live my life in accordance where I minimize, like I'm very risk averse to anything that could cause me to potentially die. So for example, I will not go bungee jumping. I will, not try to solo fly a helicopter. I will not do anything in my life which would actually cause me potential death. So like, even for example, when I'm walking around in public, assuming I'm crossing streets and stuff, I won't listen to headphones because I don't want to get hit by a car. Other things, I obviously don't text while driving. And even now, I don't even listen to music or podcasts or anything while driving. I just focus on driving, and because I want to live my maximum potential lifespan where I don't die of like physical trauma, like, getting hit by a car and dying that way. And also furthermore, this is why I'm so stringent with what I eat, is I don't want to die of heart disease or cancer or whatever like that. So I'm very, very strict about intermittent fasting. I don't eat breakfast or lunch. And there's this process called, I forget what it's called. It's this process essentially that your body when you're in fasting mode, your body secretes more. I think it's like SIRT1, some sort of human growth hormone, and also your body cleans out the old materials and stuff like that. And I mean, this is not like 100% proven, but there's strong. There's people believe strongly that generally speaking, with fasting, which doesn't mean that you're just always hungry all the time. Obviously, you still eat, but by going through periods of intermittent fasting, you could actually expand your lifespan to be the potential of your own genetics. So those are two things I try to do. So my personal ambition is I wish to be 120 years old. I wish to be in excellent physical health. I go to the gym at least once or twice a day. And I'm super stringent about what I eat. I don't consume sugar, simple carbohydrates. And I don't take drugs besides coffee and caffeine. I don't drink alcohol. I don't think alcohol is bad, but I just can't tolerate that well. And even one thing is, being Asian, I'm pretty lactose intolerant. So I generally abstain 100% from dairy, even though I love the taste of butter and cheese and whatnot. So if you're thinking about your life that you're going to die, then, and you say you set up your life to live the maximum lifespan, kind of ask to yourself, man, this is pretty empowering. Like, life is all upside. There's really no downside to life. And the only downsides we think about, stress with family, financial stress, stress from our jobs, whatever. But I'm just like, dude, fuck that, right? So even for myself, I had a lot of, my family is fantastic, but I had a lot of issues with my dad. There's like a poisonous dark cloud in my life, and I just cut him cold turkey. And I've been like a trillion times happier since then. Furthermore, I did like working my 9-to-5 job in many aspects. Actually, I like my coworkers. I liked some parts of the routine. I like biking to work and stuff like that. But I still, to achieve my maximum happiness in my life, I knew that I needed 100% control over my life, which means that becoming self-employed and being able to dictate my own schedule to my own needs, right? So that was another thing. And also I had certain life goals. Like some of my life goals were to travel the world, to become like a famous photographer, to get books published, exhibitions, blah, blah. And then I've hit all my goals. And I've even had some income goals in my life and how much money I wanted to save up, blah, blah. And I hit all these goals. And it's actually interesting is that once you hit all your life goals, it's nice in the sense that that you could die. Like if I died today, I'd feel pretty good with my life. I'm like, okay, I achieved a lot of cool shit. Like I'm pretty happy. So I could die without regrets. But I'm only 30 years old. So assuming I'm gonna live to be 120 years old, I'm 30. What's that? Oh, that's a lot. Assuming I live another 90 years, I'm like, it's a fucking long ass time to live, right? So now I'm almost going into another phase of my life where now that I have location independence and now that I have financial independence, what am I going to do with my life? And essentially, I think it just kind of positions you in the sense that realize that there's really nothing to fear in life. There's a lot of people, this is my personal benefit. I grew up poor and pretty much poverty. I never really went hungry, but certainly at the end of every month, my mom would tell me, it's like, your dad just gambled away the rent money. We might be homeless next month. Just heads up, right? And so from an early age, I learned that life is super uncertain. And this has actually ended up being a beneficial thing for me too, because I learned to not depend on anybody else. And it sounds a little bit sad, but actually, no, I think it was actually a very positive thing. It's very empowering because if you know that you cannot depend on anyone else but yourself, that makes you extremely resourceful in yourself. Makes you hustle hard, and it's actually insanely empowering because you realize that you have 100% control over your life and your own personal destiny. Obviously, there's a lot of things like, circumstances and luck involved, blah, blah, right? But still, the harder you work, the more you put yourself out there, you can increase your likelihood of success. And I think that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase our batting average. And, the best baseball players, right? They're not always going to hit a home run. You're not going to always, Barry Bonds it out of the field with or without steroids, right? So essentially, it's all about practice. And I think overcoming fear aversion and conquering your fears, honestly, I think it's practice, it's training. There's a Greek word I really like. It's called askesis. No, I'm not Greek. Askesis. It was one of the virtues that the Stoics and the Cynic philosophers like Diogenes Laertes, or not Diogenes Laertes, the original Diogenes, the Cynic philosopher. Essentially, it's training. Like they would, Diogenes would hug, metal statues in the winter to get himself used to train himself against the cold. During the heat, he would walk without shoes, so he'd be able to withstand the heat. And also the word ascesis goes to ascetic, A-S-C-E-T-I-C, which means, being able to train yourself to be strong, to become more self-reliant. And it's something that I strive towards. Like, so some personal examples for myself. The last 5 years, I've been a very devoted cold water showerer with insane benefits. And so I don't actually legitimately remember the last time I took a warm shower. And it's been good because, obviously it's still kind of painful, but it kind of, if you could take an icy cold shower in the winter in Michigan or even in Germany, you realize that you won't die. And actually it's a good way to conquer fear aversion, because a lot of us are just afraid of pain. But then once you realize that the pain ain't gonna kill you, then it's like the pain is not such a big deal. There's a quote that I got from Nassim Taleb from his latest book, Skin in the Game. Is called, the phrase is Panthema Mathemata or something, and I think it means let pain guide you. So pain is kind of this interesting thing where, there are good types of pain and bad types of pain. And as long as you just kind of listen to yourself and your body, you kind of let pain be an instructor. And I think fear is the same thing too, is that a lot of us think that fear is a bad thing, but actually often fear is a good thing in the sense that it guides us in an interesting way. So for example, in street photography, generally if you photograph everything which you're afraid of, you have a much higher likelihood of making an interesting photograph. Furthermore, let's say there's certain life choices or certain job opportunities or travels you want to go, but you're afraid. Generally, the fear is a signal that genuinely you're actually interested in doing that thing, but you're afraid of the negative consequences. However, you should not let the fear of the negative consequences prevent you from going on that certain journey or that life path or making that life decision, because I think in life, the goal ain't to be devoid of the physical manifestation of fear. No, the goal is, you want to do something, you see the fear. You don't let the fear prevent you from doing what you want to do. So for example, let's say I want to teach a new workshop, but I'm afraid that no one sign up or, whatever. I'm still afraid of doing it, but I do it regardless, in spite of the fact that I still feel the fear. Furthermore, let's say in street photography, I see a person that's kind of looks scary, or I'm afraid that they might yell at me, whatever. I still feel the fear, but I take the photo anyways. So the idea is that you let you don't let the fear become an obstacle. You actually let the fear kind of be a guide, or maybe even as a tool of empowerment. Maybe the fear could be likened to having a shot of espresso, right? Is that you take a shot of espresso or you drink a cup of coffee. You get the adrenaline rush from your body's physiological reaction against caffeine, which is actually a small dose of poison. So perhaps a little bit of poison in life and fear is actually what makes life more interesting. And a life 100% devoid of fear, I think it's actually not a good life, where that means that you're not taking risks, you're not pushing yourself. This is something interesting. I've been going to the gym a lot more with Cindy, and we've been doing deadlifts together and stuff like that. Cindy's insanely strong. She's this tiny Asian girl, right? She deadlifted 195 pounds the other day, and I was talking to her, and for her the biggest roadblock actually is when you're trying to attempt a new 1 rep max. 95% is fear. Is that you're just kind of afraid that you're just kind of intimidated by the weight or something like that. But then you just have to attempt it regardless. And even now, I think she could lift more, but it's still kind of that mental block which prevents you from going to the next level. And so once you look at the fear, you kind of look at the fear, you acknowledge it, but think of the fear as a wise guide who's actually trying to encourage you. So for example, let's say once again, you're shooting street photography, you see something that scares you. Your buddy Fear, I don't know, let's say, looks like a Grim Reaper. I don't know, right? So, best friend Fear is like, oh, Eric, you see that thing you want to photograph? Yeah, don't be afraid. Just shoot it. Right? It's not like something that says, oh, that guy might hurt you. No, like just kind of disregard that. Just use that to kind of drive you forward. Furthermore, with life decisions, just kind of always think in terms of reverse. I think Jeff Bezos says this very well. He calls it the regret minimization framework, where you imagine yourself vividly on your deathbed. I think he said he imagined himself 90 years old on his deathbed. Whatever decision you're going to make in life, think about how you'll feel like when you're 90 years old on your deathbed, and whether you're going to regret having taken that choice or having not taken that choice. And generally in life, this is my personal experience, it's better to take the wrong decision that's more risky and fail than to take the more safe option and it just kind of turn out boring. Does that make sense? It means for example, let's say you have I could use my personal example. In 2011, I was living in LA, and I'm doing all these things with my buddy Jacob Patterson at the Think Tank Gallery. Street photography is blowing up in LA, and all these kind of interesting things are happening. Cindy just got into a PhD program in Michigan State, East Lansing, which is kind of the middle of nowhere, right? So she goes there. My love of my life is, we're not married yet, right? My love of my life has went off to East Lansing. I'm in LA, shit's popping. I had to make the choice. Okay. Do I stay here in LA and build up my career or whatever? Or do I follow the love of my life to East Lansing, middle of nowhere? And I took the risk of going to East Lansing, even though it might have hurt my personal career, whatever's, but it ended up being the best decision in my life because obviously, built up my relationship with Cindy, and then eventually we got married, and it was the best thing that I made in my life. So if you thought about those two different decisions, I kind of knew in my heart the right decision was to follow Cindy. However, there was fear involved because I was fearful, if I go to East Lansing, what's going to happen in my street photography? Am I not going to be able to make good street photos? Am I going to be depressed, miserable? I have no friends there, blah, 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 blah. But I end up, you just kind of adapt. And that's another thing I realized too, is that the human body, the human mind, the human soul, we're so much more adaptable and resilient and robust and anti-fragile than people think we are. Is regardless of how shitty a situation you're in, fuck it, you'll be all right. You're pretty solid, right? People try to beat you up, whatever. People are pretty resilient. So I think that's a good way to overcome some sort of fears in life, is just taking the more risky option in life and just knowing that you're not going to die. Some other practical suggestions I have in terms of conquer your fears in life, because a lot of it is this psychological stuff. I think a lot of conquering fears in life, a lot of it is just physiological. So for example, if you want to feel more confident, courageous, or bold, or risk loving, just try kind of powerlifting style workouts at the gym. So doing heavy squats. I generally do heavy dumbbell presses because I don't like gain spoters for bench press. And doing heavy deadlifts. And every single week, just try to increase your 1 repetition maximum by 5 pounds. Just keep pushing your limits. I found that through powerlifting or weightlifting, it just builds an insane amount of self-confidence. The freaking adrenaline rush you have after a workout, during a workout, just makes you so much more bold. Furthermore, regardless if you're a guy or girl, seeing your body pack on more muscle, and then, obviously you always look at yourself naked in the shower naked in the mirror before you take a shower. Once you see your body building up more muscle and then losing body fat tissue, you're going to actually feel more self-confident in yourself. Because if you could look at yourself in the naked, damn, I look good, or you like the way you look, you actually have a lot more self-confidence and you're a lot more brave. And, I would actually probably think that, who knows all these hormones in the body, but, both men and women have testosterone. Generally speaking, I think when you're lifting weights and you're building more muscles, certainly you must increase your testosterone levels. And testosterone is obviously a hormone which increases self-confidence, courageousness, and boldness and brazenness, whatever. Also, things I would also personally recommend is, and this is just what's helped me a lot, the single best thing I've done for myself in terms of conquering my fear aversion is reading a lot of Stoicism. So the Stoic masters, generally what I recommend is Seneca, Letters from a Stoic, all of his essays. I've read them at least 10 times. Marcus Aurelius, the Meditations, Epictetus. I actually really like Diogenes, The Life of Diogenes. Just Google Cynicism, Diogenes. Also, who else good? Anyways, Stoicism, there's a bunch of them. They're all very good. And I think it's conquering fear aversion. A lot of it is just like mental practice, right? Is that if you want to get better at baseball, you obviously swing the bat more often. If you want to build more mental confidence and conquer fear aversion, you need to keep training your mind too. It's like going to the gym. If you want bigger muscles or stronger muscles, obviously you need to practice and lift more weights. And if you want to be successful in whatever you decide to do, it all comes down to practice and training, right? So that's been very, very useful to me. And also this is another practical thing that's actually helped me is that generally speaking, when I make YouTube videos or when I did blog posts, the best thing I ever did, at least for my blog, was to disable comments and also disable page views. So I don't know how many people read my blog posts, whatever. And it's nice because it allows you to be more risky in terms of writing about random shit that you're personally interested, that other people may not like it. Because the problem with comments is that all comments, I think, are not really that useful. So even if you get good comments, people are like, wow, Eric, you're the best, you're so smart, right? Like it feels good, but it technically doesn't really help you in any practical way. But then the second part, right, is that someone's like, oh, Eric, you're a piece of shit, I hope you die, blah, blah. Then of course, like, no matter how mentally resilient you are, it just puts you in a shitty mood. Like, either it might make you feel depressed or it might make you angry. Like, to me, it just kind of tends to make me more angry. When I was starting off when I was younger in my early 20s, it would make me more depressed. Now as I'm getting older, it just kind of makes me angry. And I think anger is an emotion that physiological, I don't like the feeling of anger. I think all emotions are useful in one way or another, but I still kind of prefer having like a Zen zone where I can speak freely, like I'm kind of making this video right now without censoring myself. So whenever possible, if you have your own website or blog, just disable the comments. Also, another thing is on YouTube, I never read comments. So for you guys watching, like, I so much appreciate your support. Don't feel like you need to leave a comment, like no pressure. Just watch the videos and just kind of share ideas which you find are interesting. And I kind of do like having comments on YouTube because let's say you're watching this video and you have a certain idea or a tip for anyone else watching the video, then yeah, leave a comment below. So I think it's useful having that. But if you're gonna start your own YouTube channel, start your own blog, whatever, whenever possible, just disable the comments because it's going to. So it could go several ways. So for example, let's say you have comments, and let's say 100% of people leaving you good comments, like very empowering, like, wow, you're the best, you're so smart, great idea, you helped me, blah, blah. The downside of that is that it becomes a feedback loop where if you don't get that many positive comments, you actually become discouraged, right? And then inevitably, sooner or later, the more famous you get, you're gonna get like quote unquote haters, right? And that's always gonna put in your bad mood. So the best tip I have is just have no comments. That's why I do not like Facebook, Instagram, and all this nonsense too, because all these comments, like, it just kind of fucks with our mental psychiatry, is that like we get addicted to numbers and positive feedback, and when we don't get it, we get discouraged. I don't think we should let positive feedback or negative feedback either encourage us or discourage us. We must find the drive within ourselves to kind of share what you really kind of believe in without fear. Other ways to conquer your fears, generally speaking, a lot of people, I think 99% of people, the reason why they don't take more risks in life, it's almost always financial. And if you generally tend to live an ascetic lifestyle where you have zero debt, you could live for super cheap, you could just take so many more risks in life. And like, even for myself, I feed myself generally on like less than $3 a day. I eat mostly eggs and just like cheap meats. I don't own much. I have zero debt, and this is kind of nice. And then also, this is also another practical thing too, because I don't monetize YouTube videos. I don't put ads on it. I don't really care for how many views I get because it doesn't matter, right? Like they, it's like think about it, right? So if I'm making YouTube videos and I don't get, if I don't put advertising on it, like why does the number of views I have really matter? Like to me, if let's say I make a video and then if at least just one person watching the video finds something empowering or useful or helpful or encouraging, whatever, and it's helped steer their life in a more positive way, to me, like the work is fine. And that's the problem with these metrics, is that you could see how many views you get or followers you have, whatever. You cannot see the real life impact you're making in human beings' lives. And this is a metric that you'll never be able to discover too. So once again, I think the reason I'm putting out this information is obviously I want to help other people. And also to me, it's kind of a nice opportunity for me to reflect and kind of distill my thoughts and stuff like that. So anyways, realize, just to kind of wrap up, just kind of realize in life, think of your own personal death and then work backwards. When in doubt, take the more risky, scary, dangerous option. Third is reduce your expenses to a bare minimum. If you live a more aesthetic lifestyle, you have more freedom to take more risks. 4, and this is just a personal thing, is that do you want to leave a legacy? Yes or no? This is a personal decision. Do you want to become famous? Do you want people to know who you are? Do you want your name to be able to ripple throughout future generations? It's all, there's no right or wrong. It's just your choice. I personally, I love fame. I think fame is a good thing, contrary to what a lot of other people think. I think the more notoriety or notorious I become, the more people in the world discover Eric Kim is, I think the better, because I think even in today's world, influence is actually more important than money. And also, I do think that I have good ideas that could help other people. So the more influence and the more power and the more fame I get, I think generally the better. And also, preferably, I would like that, after I'm dead, like at least 100 years from now, people will still remember who Eric Kim is. That one Asian dude on YouTube where he did a bunch of street photography stuff and empowerment stuff and philosophy stuff. To me, that would actually be really nice. I would actually really like that. Not because I could reap the rewards after I'm dead, but for me, I love humanity so much. I want to do everything in my power right now to help future generations of humans. So think about if you do in fact want to become more famous, or you want to make an impact, or you want to create a legacy or become more notorious, whatever, then think about it. A person in their life who never takes any risks, are they going to be remembered? No, right? Always the ones who become notorious, famous, legendary, whatever, they've always been risk takers. They've always challenged the status quo. They've always been misfits, rebels, labeled as insane, whatever, extreme. But yeah, our lives are short and uncertain. Let's make the best of it. So take risks, be bold. Better to take a risk, piss people off, than to do the safe option and have everyone pat you on the back. Just some of my thoughts. So yeah, what are your personal fears in life? Leave a comment below. Obviously you don't have to, but sometimes I actually feel that being able to put your greatest fears into words and leaving it is actually another good way to conquer the fear. Because you type it out, you write it out, and you submit it, and then you look at it and you're like, my greatest fear is actually not that bad. So like maybe even, what is Eric Kim's worst fear right now? If anything, my worst fear is just losing motivation or inspiration to create. So the day I become impotent to create stuff, that's maybe my greatest fear, right? Even that's not that bad. So yeah, life's all upside. Love life. Be you. Leave a comment if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. And yeah, just let's conquer our fears together. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace out.